is an It Came From GenX video.
Hey everybody, this is Keith Porter with It Came From GenX, but I am not alone. The boys are back in town. Mike Skinner, Ryan Fisher, friends. 36 years, a couple of us. Man, it's been a while, but we have been friends a long time, and we wanted to have fun and do a little internet show a few years ago. And here we are coming to you on the B.O.S. Code Media Network, Spotify, YouTube, other streaming devices we'll talk about later. And we are glad to be here. This is a show about life through the eyes of GenXers. We poke a little fun. We have a little fun. But mostly we hope that you just enjoy yourself, learn something, and hey, let us hear from you. So let's say hi to the boys. Mike Skinner, how you doing, baby?
Doing good.
Good weekend for you.
Great weekend for me. My 49ers, I'm not going to say put a licking on Dallas because it was actually a very close game for the entire four quarters.
We'll talk about that, yeah.
But yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get into that. Got good news today. My new purchase with Miss Marcy, the camper, is being delivered tomorrow morning.
Congratulations.
So looking forward to that. Not looking forward to the payment that's going to come along with that, with the new truck I got to buy. But hey,
yeah, they're like that.
We're looking forward to doing some traveling with it.
That's
hopefully
exciting,
hit a music festival or two this summer with the camper with some close friends of mine. Hint, hint, and we'll go from there.
That's
good
awesome,
to see you guys.
Man. Congratulations. Good to see you, brother. Man, now the guy who doesn't look so happy.
It's fine.
Bitch, what's up, baby? How you doing, man?
I'm all right. So, yeah, you alluded to the Cowboys losing, so we'll talk more about that. But you know what? I was out last night, and there was a lot of people there, so it's cool. Skinner, Marcy, Cooper's, Cunningham, Allie. Cooper's neighbors, Sean and Allie. So we had a nice group of us, had a good time. It was a close game. It wasn't a blowout. I really wasn't expecting Dallas to win, frankly, because it just, don't win the big games like that anymore. But it was fun. It was a good time. Good to see people. And then nice quality time with Allie on the weekend as well.
All right.
Awesome. I'll give a shout out real quick. Cranston's Pub in Doylestown. So if you're in the Northeast Ohio area, go check them out. Literally the only food on the menu is pizza. That's it. Nothing else. So they are known for their pizza, handmade dough, delicious. Go check them out. And they serve big giant, if you like to drink beer, you can get a liter of beer in a big giant German beer mug.
So
very
you were
good
doing
place.
good then, huh?
Yeah, it was
yeah, I wanted to hang or go out and see the game, but Sunday, I should say, I was recovering from Saturday. The show out at Lake Milton at the Sail Inn went great. We had a tremendous crowd. Well, we played the Sail Inn a few years ago. Then COVID happened, and they haven't had live entertainment since. We just found out we were like the first band back, which was flattering and nice. And they're trying to get entertainment out there at the lake. So we had a great crowd. I blew 1,000-watt speaker, but well, it is what it is. And it was cold loading up equipment. I couldn't wait to get home. But it was a great show, and I spent all day yesterday recovering. And I am ready to go today. Got a lot of good things going on in my life here and trying to get everything on track. And I am really excited about the fact that we are creeping up on 100 shows, fellas. This is show 96. So really excited to say, hey, we did 100 shows. Really just excited about that. So we'll talk about that later. Tell them where they can find the show, bro.
Yeah, we got to plan something for the 100th. Because Skinner was saying, he was talking about, since they have a camper now, they have to reassess their friends. It's their camper people now.
That's
you know what
smart move.
They don't want any. His quote was something along the lines, he doesn't want any effing freeloaders in his camp, something like that. He said last night. I was like,
I'm already thinking about moving in.
Yeah, jeez.
Hey, you got a pool or pond near that or something?
Pond would be good for you. Natural spring. All right. Well, you might be listening to us wherever you are listening to podcasts. We can be found on all major podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and plenty more. Just pull up the It Came From GenX podcast, give us a follow or subscribe. And as we publish new episodes every week, they'll pop into your podcast library to listen at your convenience, all for free. You might be watching us. We have segments on the Boss Code Media TV network, as Keith already said. Tons of great content out there from creative folks all across the country. Find the app on your smart TV device, the Boss Code network, or on your portable device. Download, subscribe, and we're there on our very own channel, the It Came From GenX channel, along with plenty of other folks out there. You might be watching us on our YouTube channel at It Came From GenX. All show information can be found in two main places. Our Linktree page is simply Google Linktree. It Came From GenX. It's simply a page with links to our social media, places you can listen to us. Our merch store is there, podcast merch, cool logo merch, and different things out there with our show and our brother podcast, Convincing Idiots. And our website, itcamefromgenx.wordpress.com. All show information's there, links to new episodes, videos, bios, ways to sponsor the show, etc. It's all out there for you. If you do anything at all for us, follow, like, share, subscribe. Just everywhere out there, just keep up with us. Tell a friend, and keep on listening. We greatly appreciate your support.
Absolutely. And speaking of appreciation, this show is brought to you by Michael Skinner Jr., our podcast producer. Much love to him. And this video produced by our own Brian Fisher. And hey, we wouldn't be on Boss Code Media if it wasn't for the man, Des the Reason, Canton's own Des the Reason rapper sensation. So we want to say thank you to all three of those guys. All right.
Absolutely.
Let's get them on Little World News, baby.
All right, we are going to go to Southeast England and the city
all the time.
of... What's that?
Go there all the time.
Okay. Let's see. It is in Surrey, which is a southeast town in southeast England. British girl. They did not divulge her name or her age, to be truthful. Just a British girl won a settlement of 39 million pounds. Translates to 48.3 million US dollars. She went into the hospital sick back last June, I think it was when it was. They sent her home. The hospital sent her home with acetaminophen and some other medicine for symptoms they thought she had. Her injuries at the time were completely avoidable, and with proper care, and she went into the hospital, came back a week later because her symptoms worsened, and she ended up having meningitis along with sepsis.
Ooh.
The lawyer represents the family said that let's see. Apologize. Let's see. Her parents returned to the hospital when her condition worsened. Doctors diagnosed with the meningitis sepsis. She later experienced multi-organ failure. The severity of the sepsis then made her have to have a quadruple limb amputation. She lost her legs at the knees and her arms at the elbows to stop the sepsis from killing her. Now, the lawyer or the doctor, according to the BBC News, symptoms she initially had the original visit were red flags for the meningitis and sepsis, but the doctors missed it. So had they treated her properly the first time she went in there, she would still most likely have her arms and legs today. So I'm going to stop there. If you check out the story, just look up young girl in Great Britain or in England. You can read more. But my first question to you fellas is, how the hell does this still happen with today's medicine? Doctors go through. Now, let me go back. I understand people can't be perfect 100% of the time. It's not human to be perfect. But when you go to school for 8 years after high school, 8 years to be a doctor, and then you've got another 4 to 8 years of residency in whatever specialty you do.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell do you miss a simple diagnosis like this when the red flags, based on everything that the story says, are there? How does this still happen in 2023, 2022 in this case? They can say, well, Western medicine, which is the U.S., is so much better than anywhere else across the world. I don't believe that. I think doctors across the pond are just as good. Their technology is just as good as it is in the U.S. So how the hell does this stuff still happen? I don't understand it.
Unfortunately, Skinner, I am seeing this more and more in today's medical field. I'm seeing it in my personal life, and I'm seeing it in other people. There is this lack of attention to detail, this understanding that there is no margin for error. There are certain things where there can't be any margin for error. The medical field is one of them. I'm not saying people are perfect, but I'm just saying it has to be above reproach. And there's this carelessness I'm seeing from people, like it's no big deal. Even in my medical transportation one day, they called me to verify my address to pick me up the next day, to take me to have this medical stuff done. And the next day they called me, said, we'll be pulling up in 15 minutes. And they were in Canton with an address I've never even heard of, in Canton. You just called me the day before to verify my address. And the driver's in Canton. Like, really? And I never got any, I wasn't even seen because they were so late, nobody would see me. So, there's a story happened right here, I think in Akron. They messed up and gave 2 kids an adult dose of the COVID vaccine.
That was in Indiana. We talked about that.
Indiana? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So Indiana.
The 2 little ones, yeah.
Right, exactly. And how do you mess that up? So I see it more and more and more. The attention to detail. You guys know about what happened when I had that last procedure done on my knee. It was right after COVID, and they told me when I got there they couldn't put me under anymore because of COVID, which I still don't know what one had to do with the other. But they said, hey, we got something that's going to work great. We're going to give you some Xanax and some antihistamine. Was it antihistamine? And they gave me 5 Xanax, and then came out with this big syringe this long and this thick. And I refused to let them shoot them with me. They're like, you'll be awake during the surgery. I was like, I don't care. And I thank God I didn't let them shoot me, because it might have killed me. I was a mess for days. My vision started leaving me. They had to rush me to the hospital 2 days later. And here it is on the internet, plain as day. Do not mix Xanax with a medication that I take. Could be fatal. How do they not know that? So people just don't care like they used to. There's not the attention to detail like it used to be. And unfortunately, if you don't check out things for yourself, you're going to be in a world of hurt. My mom used to get prescribed stuff for one thing, and I'll look it up, and it's for mental health or something. I'm like, don't you dare take this. This will have you all messed up. You got to do your own research. And I tell you what, when you hear a story about this young lady, the first thing comes to your mind is, because we all know this being older, we all know, we learn through experience, nothing matters more than your health as we get older. Nothing is more important than your health. And when you hear a story like this, the first thing comes to your mind is, what the heck is all this money going to, what difference does that matter? You took this girl's limbs, there's no money can replace that. So it's just really sad, and people need to get it together. That's my thoughts.
Well said. Fish, you have anything to add?
Yeah, this is a terrible tragedy, obviously. I mean, I was just peeking online here that, at least in the United States anyway, there's a shortage of physicians. And I don't know if they have the same problem over in other countries as well. So I'm just thinking if that's also contributing to some of these errors and carelessness where you have fewer people in the medical staff stretching themselves thinner and thinner, working more hours, and that's contributing to some of these mistakes that you see as well. I'm not saying it's a factor in this particular case. I'm just saying in general, it seems like the medical field has been suffering for a long time. Don't know for sure, but it feels like maybe going through the pandemic has really caused some people to maybe rethink their own profession, as much as the hell that they went through, and some people to not get into the profession. So I don't know. All that's a very dangerous equation as well. If you don't have enough people to cover the needs in your area, you're more susceptible to from inconveniences of trying to see a doctor when you're sick. And then obviously when you finally do, are we going to see an increase in error perhaps? I don't know. It's a pretty unfortunate and a scary thing. So
well, it certainly is scary to think about that. If the medical profession, they didn't just get shortage over the last 2 years due to COVID. I mean, this has got to be years of building up to this. I mean, you can blame COVID for a lot of things, but I think a long-term shortage like the medical profession, that's got to take years to get to where it's at today. So, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, that's what it says too. It's like if you're already behind now, by the time that young people get properly, get properly educated,
right?
You're that much farther behind if it doesn't change quickly.
Yeah, that's one field out there that you just can't turn on a dime.
Exactly.
So
I remember
anyways,
when Peyton was career thinking for college, I mean, she was thinking about being a teacher at one point because of her love for kids, and she decided she wasn't going to do that. I mentioned maybe being a pediatric nurse or something like that, to where she could work with kids, and it's a very honorable profession and all that stuff. And her first comment was, "Everybody I know that's a nurse hates it."
Mm.
And I'm like, you know what? She's right.
Yeah.
People that I know that are nurses, it's a very, very, very tough profession, and some have regretted. I don't know if they've regretted it, but it seems like at times it's something where they've almost wish they've done something differently, but they're so far into it and all that. It's certainly pros and cons, but it's definitely a very difficult profession.
Got to be prevalent. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, not saying it's impacted here. I'm kind of going off topic a little bit, but it just if it is, it's not going to get any better if we don't have the right people, right amount of people, and the right training and careful measures and all that stuff, as you said. So,
right.
Prayers to this young lady too, man. Really,
yes, absolutely. It's terrible.
Yeah,
that's horrible. Horrible.
All right. Well, good story. Thanks, Skinner. Okay, let's pivot to some sports and music. Up a little bit. Well, lighten it up for some of us. The NFL wrapped up its second round of the playoffs in the divisional rounds, and I tell you what, it was some pretty interesting stuff. First of all, I want to say this about my new favorite player. I said it a few weeks ago, but I just love me some Joe Burrow. But the Cincinnati Bengals are no joke.
No.
And people better recognize that this team is not only talented, but they are tough. To go into Buffalo and manhandle the Buffalo Bills blew me away. I wouldn't have been shocked if they won, but to do it like they did, in those weather conditions. I'm telling you what, if they win it all, it would not shock me one bit. So, hands out to the Cincinnati Bengals, man. That was just a great job. What are your thoughts on the Cincinnati game, Fish?
Yeah, like I said before, you knew it was 14-0, like quick.
Real quick.
Yeah, and they were running the ball. They were passing. It's like the weather did not impact them at all with all that snow flying. Of course, they're an outdoor Ohio team too, but and they just played so. It's a cliche and all that, but Burrow, man, he's just poised, man.
Oh, just cool as
just cool. He doesn't, keeps his head together, and he was getting rid of the ball. They had a couple linemen out, as you know, offensive linemen, but still, it seemed like he got tons of pressure. They just had a great game plan and executed it, man.
Yeah,
and the defense played well.
They played phenomenal. Skinner, a couple of years ago, the Bills came out of nowhere and became one of the perennial teams in the NFL. Are they starting to go downhill, or is this just they ran into a buzzsaw in Cincinnati?
I heard the term they ran out of gas with all the emotion that's happened with Donar Hamlin. The fact that they had a game move from Buffalo to Detroit because for the Browns game they played against the Browns, they've had so much happen to them, not only physically but emotionally over the last 6 weeks. They ran out of gas. That's nothing against Cincinnati because they had a hell of a game plan. Like you said, it was 14-0 when you look up and you're like, holy crap, what just happened?
Yeah.
And the way they manhandled the offense, Buffalo's offense, combination of ran out of gas and a great game plan from Cincinnati. They're a team to reckon with.
Yes, they are.
And like you said, Joey Burrow is just an incredible third year quarterback.
Unbelievable.
He's just incredible right now.
Yeah. Now the Giants, we knew they had a decent season. We didn't expect a whole lot of them. The Eagles definitely have been one of the front runners all season long. But getting to yesterday's huge game, your Cowboys, high hopes going into this game. They slapped Brady and the Buccaneers around last week. And even you, Fish, made the comment, we'll see how they look against the real defense, not just the real defense, but the best defense in the NFL, which they look good. Tough break losing Pollard. He's the energy on that team, man. I mean, he's the speed. He makes the offense move quickly. Sometimes when Zeke was running the last couple of years, it kind of just was like going through the motions. It's going to get 2 yards maybe or something. But Pollard, man, when he gets that ball, there's just energy. And I said, wow, when he went down, I was like, they ain't going to make it, man. And they almost did. So I don't want to harp on Dallas too much, Fish, unless you want to comment on him. But I do want to talk about this kid just came out of nowhere, Brock Purdy. Unbelievable story. He is going to play in the NFC Championship game next week with 11 games experience. That is an unbelievable rags to riches story. And I was liking the kid, and I like him even more now. I watched a phenomenal video of him talking today. He's a devout Christian, loves the Lord. He is a smart man. He knows who he is and what he wants. And we talk about Joe Burrow being cool. This kid is unflappable, and he's going to be a great story. The way I looked at it, if the Bengals win the Super Bowl, I'll be happy for them. I love me some Joe Burrow. If the Eagles win, I'll be happy for them. I thought Jalen Hurts will be a great story, seeing how he lost his starting job in the championship game in college for Tua. Took the transfer portal, went to Oklahoma, and I thought this would be a great story for kids to say, hey, it's not the end of the world, to bounce back and go to the Super Bowl. And I thought Buffalo would be great. I like Buffalo. The only team I didn't really care about was Kansas City because they got kind of cocky. But I tell you what, I am all about the 49ers. I hope they go. I hope they win it all. And it was a great rags to riches story. So I was just wondering, guys, in history, in our time, I saw some great stuff on the internet, but in our time, who's like the best rags to riches story? You can keep it in football if you want, but if you want to veer out of football, that's fine. What's the best rags to riches story in your mind as sports, Skinner?
I think you got to go to Kurt Warner.
Oh man, great one.
Came out
that's
of
a great one.
when you asked us that at the beginning before we went on the air, I'm like, okay, real quick, and I that came to me without having to look it up. But Kurt Warner came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
he played. He was with was it Notre Dame or USC? It was Notre Dame. He was in college.
Yeah, and then
I
he
might
played
be
a
wrong.
little arena ball.
And then he went up to Canada and played arena, and then all of a sudden he's on the NFL squad, and boom, he's winning a Super Bowl. So
he was packing groceries.
Yes, when he got the call
to go to camp.
You're talking about a spiritual. You're talking about spiritual with Brock. I mean, there's a lot of familiarities with this.
It really is.
Him and his wife are very spiritual. They ended up, being philanthropists. I hate that word. To say that word, I should say. But
he went
after
to
he was done, no kidding.
Like
but
the rest of us.
His story, if you don't know it, there's a movie about him. I don't recall the name of it at the moment, but there is an autobiography movie about it. Excuse me, about him.
Very good movie. I saw that. It's American Underdog or something like that. So
okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
The guy that plays Shazam, it plays him in the movie. Yes. Very good movie.
So he would be my choice for Rags to Riches.
No, that's a great one. Okay, awesome. How about you, Fish?
That is a good one, man. I was kind of thinking through some stuff. I don't know if it's necessarily a Rags to Riches per se, but I'm going to go with a local kid from Akron, Ohio.
I was hoping somebody would bring him up.
Yeah, kind of grew up in a tough neighborhood over in Akron. Single mom, kind of a tough time.
Yeah.
Not single mom, single parent.
Dad in prison.
Yep. So, and just decided, I'm going to make the most out of my sheer basketball talent. The great LeBron James came out of Akron, of course, right from high school. It was almost like a perfectly scripted story to wind up to be drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers. And
it was
took the team itself.
Some people say it was fixed because it was so perfect.
Yeah, took the team itself from the depths of just terrible
laughable.
times.
They were laughable.
They really were laughable. To obviously some championship appearances, and finally took them to the promised land in 2016, which was one of the greatest sports stories in Cleveland history. Certainly with that. So,
not a Cleveland guy, but it was one of the greatest moments. I can remember. It was just an awesome feeling to be watching it, and to have met LeBron a couple times, and it was just awesome. And he was never seen a day in college, and then to be put on Sports Illustrated as the chosen one. If that's not pressure, I don't know what is. And you never see people live up to the hype when you see things like that. He surpassed it. He went from that to being called the king. The arguments of who's the greatest of all time will probably go on, forever. So that's a good one too. All right. So, hey, listen, I hate to do this, Skinner, but I got to go with your boy, Tom Brady. Very, very similar to Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was a 7th round pick, 262 in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, the last person. There's only been 5 that have even had a great NFL career. 5 Mr. Irrelevants. Not expected to make the team. That's why they call them that. Whoever has that last pick, you got to pick somebody. So, okay, give me this guy. I think they throw a dart at the name or something. But Tom Brady was a 6th round pick, 199th in the draft. When I look at his draft picture, he looks like some guy that sells beer down at O'Shea's or something. I mean, he doesn't even look like an athlete. I'm like, this guy's pathetic. I think he ran a 10-minute 40 or something. They had to send a cab to pick him up. It's just ridiculous, man. He's like this, this picture. And here this guy is with 7 Super Bowl rings. Us Steelers for years used to say, we want one for the thumb. This guy's got one for the toe. Just an amazing story to come out of obscurity, backup quarterback to Drew Brees, and to have 7 Super Bowl championships. So that's an incredible story for me.
That's a good one.
So here we are, guys. We'll be looking forward to next week's championship games, the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC, and the San Francisco 49ers against the Philadelphia Eagles. It should be great. Young quarterbacks, dynamic quarterbacks. All the old guys are gone as far as this year's playoffs. And as far as our teams, Skinner's Browns are out. My Steelers, when I say Skinner Jr., his Browns are out. My Steelers are out. Fisher's Cowboys are out. And all that's left is Skinner Sr.'s 49ers. So go 49ers. Hope you guys do great.
Boo.
So be bitter, twat.
No, but I do want to comment. This past weekend, other than the Giants Eagles game, the other 3 games were very entertaining.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as a football fan, Jacksonville game, they gave everything they possibly could.
They did, and they're going to be a great team. I'm looking forward to them doing great things too. Now, another great young leader who I'm starting to like more on that team, Trevor Lawrence. And
if you saw my post on Facebook about him, I want to dislike this kid, but the more I see this kid, the more he thrives and wants to be that leader.
He's learning how to be a leader,
and he's just a remarkable story.
Yeah, I think the talent's always been there, but I think he's learning how to be a leader now, and that's making difference on that football team.
Yeah.
They got a good young nucleus on there. Also, the New York Giants are going to be something to deal with that once they get a few more pieces together. So, looking forward to next season for all of us. Okay, guys. In the music world, we had a death. David Crosby. Crosby, Stills and Nash. Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young. One of the pioneers in just I don't want to say classic rock, but classic folk rock era. I mean, he was just a talented singer, talented songwriter. You wouldn't find him in my CD collection, but certainly somebody when I heard, I recognized as someone extremely talented and appreciated listening to him sing and play and all that good stuff. So thoughts, Crosby, David Crosby Fish?
Yeah, just a nice sound. I wasn't not an avid listener of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Crosby, Stills, Nash, but when they came on, the sound.
Yes.
They definitely had a unique vibe. Super talented guys. Like I said, he was a great guitar player and singer. So they're definitely iconic in the world of rock. No question about it. So definitely a huge icon.
Skinner, thoughts on David Crosby?
Fisher's nailed it on the head. I think he was an incredible musician. He had the unique sound. He was also with the Byrds before he was with Crosby, Stills and Nash.
That's right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was with the Byrds prior to going with Crosby.
I usually know everything.
Yeah, well, I got you on that one, didn't I?
Yeah.
But no, the guy was just, I don't want to say larger than life when it comes to that style of music that they played, but he was easy on the ears and a great showman. So, 81 years old, he lived a good life. So rest in peace. And, prayers to his family for peace and guidance through this tough time. But, his music will live on forever.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Okay, guys. Make sure I'll find this day in music here. I was looking through this day in music, and there wasn't any significant stories that caught my eye, but I look at the deaths or the birthdays, and I caught a couple of things. 2003, R. Kelly was arrested on new child pornography charges. The singer was detained in Miami after police said digital sex pictures were discovered at his home in Florida last June. The singer was already facing 21 charges relating to producing child pornography and appearing in a video having sex with the underage girl. He was charged with a further 12 counts of possession of child pornography. So that was 2003. We know right now R. Kelly is serving time for a lot of these charges. We've had a lot of professional musicians either get arrested and charged or didn't get arrested and charged for similar charges, similar acts, I should say. Is there anybody in your mind, guys, that you think should have done some time, or maybe didn't get enough time or trouble for the things they done? And I'm going to start this off right off the bat. This guy, to me, just ruined his entire career over the dumbest choice you can think of. And I'm going to start off with Jerry Lee Lewis.
Mm.
Not only did you destroy your career with a minor, but she was also your cousin or related to you in some kind of way. I don't know if this guy was around today with the media that we have. I think he'd probably be under the jail. But we hear a lot about this type of stuff going on. There are some guys who have never, ever gotten in trouble. I just read about Karl Malone, the great Karl Malone basketball player, impregnated a 13-year-old, and it was hushed up. That's starting to become common news. Yeah. Anybody offhand that you can think of that kind of got away with doing something, maybe not pornography, but have a relationship with someone underage? Fish, anybody come to mind real quick?
Man, I don't know. I can't think of anybody who maybe should have gotten in trouble. I mean, obviously, you had some weird allegations with Michael Jackson, but he was never found guilty of any charges and all. It just seems like a strange situation.
Well, I'll throw one at you.
Good.
How about our guy, Elvis?
Well, sure.
Priscilla was what, 14?
Yeah, that is a strange one, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very strange when you think about it. I think the fact that he married her saved him from people, really crucifying him for that. But she certainly was a child. Skinner, any thoughts on that?
I don't know of anybody right offhand. I know David Allen Coe got into some trouble and spent some time.
Yeah.
I know he robbery, and I think he had possession of pornography, if I recall right. Yeah. But that's a tough subject matter for somebody really like for myself that's got, I have 4 biological daughters of my own and 3 stepdaughters. So not that I'm trying to dodge the subject, but it's a real tough one for me to
imagine
talk about. And I certainly don't seek it out. Pete Townsend, I'm not real sure what him.
Yeah, he got caught with some child pornography.
Yeah,
but you haven't heard from him.
Right.
Okay. So, all right. Well, we certainly don't want to dwell on that subject. Just a tough one. But also, guys, in this day of music, Robin Zander of the band Cheap Trick, popular trio, been around for several years. And being a musician myself, there's just something special about the trio, especially when you get paid. Not a lot of people to pay, but it's just a very unique sound when you have that simplistic band setup. I thought it'd be cool. We could talk about who our favorite trios in the music era. There's lots and lots to choose from. I can let you guys name them on your own. I can name off a few and we'll talk about them. So we'll go with you, Skinner.
My favorite, probably out of all of them, has to be Rush. I know that was going to be brought up. Very unique style and blend. And of course, Neil Peart was just incredible behind the kit. They'd probably be my number 1, and I'll just go with 2, and that's a toss. Well, let's go 2A and 2B. Beastie Boys and Green Day are 2 other ones that I really enjoyed listening to back in the day.
Okay. Well, we all went to the same high school. We knew it was Beastie Boys fever when they came out with that huge album, License to Ill. And certainly Rush. Oh my gosh, that just goes without saying. Out of Canada, one of the most amazing bands ever of our time, and we really miss Neil Peart. So Green Day, I never liked them. Can't stand them. And the more that the singer, whatever that jerk's name is, I hear him speak, the more I can't stand them. So, not a fan, man. But they are very popular. Fish?
One of my favorites about the ZZ Top.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Just cool dudes.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, was Motorhead a trio?
Yes, they were. I actually have them on my list. They were on my list as well. Motorhead
Another
was a
band I
trio.
never got into. I don't understand what the appeal is, but
no. I love Motorhead.
Good
love
stuff.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not only I think the singing's horrible, but the music's horrible.
No. The whole
Bite your
vibe.
tongue. Yeah, that was a vibe that was all to its own.
Yeah, you can keep that vibe. Okay. Oh man, I got a good list. Obviously, I'm not gonna name Rush, but they would be at the top of my list. Here's the band I never liked when they came out. It was during the MTV craze. Videos were out. They were one of the biggest video bands out there. Never dug them, but as I got older, man, I learned to appreciate the Police. Just incredible musicianship, incredible drumming.
Yep.
I agree with you. I was not a fan in the 80s.
Right. Neither was I, Skinner. Before we go on, I want to comment on Fish's ZZ Top. They're interesting because this is a band that could totally reinvented themselves from the 70s to the 80s to the video craze. They were this bluesy, gritty dirt band in the 70s, and then by the time MTV got huge in the 80s, they turned into this kind of electric metal type pop band, sort of. A lot of people didn't like it, man. It had some huge songs and some huge hits. As a musician, I know every time we play a ZZ Top song, the dance floor is full when we play one of those 80s songs like Legs or Sharp Dressed Man. So
we saw their 50th anniversary tour up in Cleveland. A couple of years ago before Dusty passed away. It was Cheap Trick open for him, actually.
Oh, okay.
Great show.
Awesome.
Was it Dusty? Who passed away? Was it Dusty? Sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
It was Dusty.
It was Dusty.
But great show, a lot of fun. Yep.
Okay, another great trio. And you wouldn't call them a band, but they were a group. Would be the Bee Gees, because they did play a lot of instruments in the studio. I thought they were just awesome.
I forgot they were a trio.
Yeah, for sure. And hold on here.
Yeah, Bee Gees might be my favorite, if you top to bottom, artist of the 70s.
Okay.
They're way up there. Way up there. Yeah.
Another one is the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Some of the greatest songs used to this day in commercials and movies and some of Hendrix's stuff. They were a great trio, very influential. And man, I just grew to love some of his stuff. I wasn't a guitar player. I know a lot of guitar players love him. But just listening to his music as I get older, I really appreciate it. And guys, I don't know if you guys ever heard this band, but man, King's X, what an incredible group of musicians. My guitar player back in the 90s loved them, and I didn't really care to listen to them, but now I really appreciate them. And I think one of the biggest trios, if not the biggest trio in history, as far as popularity videos and all that, had to be Genesis. And when you look at the careers of those guys when they went on their own, Peter Gabriel, and of course the great
Phil Collins. Yeah. So I think those are huge trios as well. So, all right. So that's it, guys, for me in sports and music. Let's get some pop culture, Fish.
Right. The toy that lets you create beautiful pictures with light. Work with colorful pegs that glow with light. Light bulb not included. Make people, animals, things. And with refills, Bugs Bunny or Bozo the Clown. You can make lots of pretty pictures with Light Bright from Hasbro.
One more trio almost as popular as Genesis, Keith. I can't believe you forgot them.
It came from GenX.
Well, that's one for sure. I was going to mention Raven from the,
Not a big Raven guy.
Yep.
Had to think about that one for a second.
Stay Hard album. Check it out. Yep. Anyway, just a lot of 80s fun.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Why don't we start with some Gen X recommendations? Have you watched, seen, heard anything you wish to recommend to our viewers and listeners? Keith, anything interesting over the past week or so?
I have not. I feel like I did watch something and I can't remember what it was, but I can't think of anything offhand. Lots of stuff I want to catch up on. So by the time you're done with Skinner, maybe I'll remember.
Okay. Skinner, anything for you?
Well, it's going to be pretty quick because I haven't watched anything new other than I did catch the first episode on Netflix of that 90s show. Spinoff from the 70s show, and had some had Kitty and I forget what his name is. Red.
Kitty, yep.
Kitty and Red, and then their son Chris came back home with Donna,
Really?
and their daughter, and then towards the, I don't want to spoil it, but there was a Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis sighting as well. So,
wow,
pretty slow start to the first half of the show, but second half of the show was pretty good. So I'll stick around and watch it some more. But if you're into the 70s, that 70s show, you'll definitely want to check this out.
Okay. All right. I know what it is that I watched. On Netflix, after a couple of years of waiting, the show Manifest was canceled on regular television, and Netflix picked it up. Fans were waiting for a couple of years. Season 4 is finally out. It's pretty cool. I'm excited about this show. I don't know if you guys will ever watch it. It's about this. Have you ever seen it?
I tried.
Yeah,
I'm going to give it a second go. But
give it a second. Incredible story. This family. There's a husband and wife, 2 twins, girl and boy, and then the sister, played by this hot chick. You'll know her face when you see her. And they're with their parents, and they're all at the airport about to take a trip. Well, the sister, the hot chick, she's tired of hearing about her parents telling her to get married, and the father is impatient, and because the flight is delayed, they offer them $400 if anybody takes this other flight, this earlier flight. So the husband says yes, the sister says yes, his little boy goes with them, the twin girl stays with the mom, and the parents stay. So they're on the airplane, everything's cool, and all of a sudden they get a little bit of turbulence. No big deal. Everybody calms down. The plane lands. When the pilots radio in, they're like, "What flight is this?" And he tells them. It gets real quiet. And they're like, "What's up?" And they send them to an alternate runway. When the plane lands, there's just cops and authorities everywhere. And they're kind of like quarantined behind the fence. They're like, "What is going on?" And they're like, "Your plane's been missing for 5 years." And for them, it's just been 3 hours. So pretty amazing show, trying to figure out what happened. I think, what are they called? They're called the 288ers, because it was flight 288 or something like that. Some of them have these abilities to see things. They call them callings. They can see the future and things like that. So season 4 is on Netflix. Pretty good.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, one thing I saw that I haven't seen in quite a while is our sponsor of the show. Yeah, our feet. Yeah. So RPM Bike Shop. So we are reconnecting and
cool.
retooling our sponsorship. Like they're retooling their bikes for their new season. So these are cool electric bikes. You could use the electric power, or you could pedal on your own. Very, very cool. Go check them out. RPM Bike Shop. You can find them on Facebook, or give them a call at 330 808-7792. They're down in Carrollton, Ohio, in the Northeast Ohio area. You can also find their website out there as well, rpmbikeshop.com, I think is what it is. But yeah, check them out and get yourself an electric bike for the springtime. A couple of things that I saw. I don't remember if I talked about it last week. Kaleidoscope. I don't know if I mentioned that or not here. So that is a series on Netflix starring Giancarlo Esposito. So he's been in a lot of stuff here, but of late he's been the kind of the main bad guy in The Mandalorian.
Yes, he's awesome on Godfather of Harlem.
Yeah, just a great villain. But on this show, he's more of the kind of a good guy-ish, if you will. So it's a whole thief thriller show. I've seen a few episodes so far. It's definitely a good series on Netflix. Go check them out. He's terrific. And at Dean's prompting from Convincing Idiots, I started watching. There's a couple episodes of the Night Court series. So it's a new series on NBC. You can find it on NBC.com streaming on demand. Probably on Hulu too, I think, but definitely on NBC.com. It's a continuation of the old Night Court series. That's what it is. So it's Harry Stone's daughter. John LaRoquette is there as Dan Fielding, so he comes back to work at her prompting. And Dean said it looks and feels just like the original series. Pretty right. It's the same set apparently. If not, it sure looks like it. But it's definitely
it looks like it.
It definitely takes me back into the 80s, 90s of that feel of a simple sitcom show
That's a good
on
feeling,
network television.
Just
Absolutely.
takes you back. It feels good. I like when I see stuff like that.
Yeah, even down to the theme, the theme in between scenes and all that type of stuff. I'm just like,
it was a simpler time. Life was simpler for us, and it just helps you bring that feeling in. I think that's cool.
Absolutely. So if you're a fan of the first series, then you'll definitely enjoy this here.
Hey, Fish.
Yes.
You mentioned Giancarlo Esposito.
Mm-hmm.
So that made me remember one of the best series I've ever seen in my life is on Hulu. It's called Godfather of Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
And it is about gangster Bumpy Johnson. True story, true figure in history. If you haven't seen the movie Hoodlum with what's it from the Matrix? Morpheus. Lawrence Fishburne.
Mm-hmm.
He plays Bumpy Johnson when he gets out of prison back in the 40s, was it 30s, and he helps Madam Queen take on Dutch Schultz, becomes one of the biggest gangsters in America. To be a black man and take on the mob was a heck of a feat, but he defeated Dutch Schultz in real life. They do that story. Well, this is Bumpy Johnson when he's older. He's like the mayor of Harlem. He's just a loved character. He pumps a lot of money into the community, but he also sells drugs. And of course, the mob hates him because they want to take over Harlem, but they can't outsmart Bumpy. Giancarlo Esposito plays one of the best characters. He's a pastor, but he's also a congressman. His office is right in the middle of Harlem. He's a drunk. He gets accused of sexually assaulting women. He's just a mess. But man, the show was violent. The show was incredible, true stuff, and one of the best performances I've ever seen is by a man by the name of Nigel Thatch, who plays Malcolm X. Better than Denzel's portrayal of Malcolm X. So watch Godfather Harlem. If you like good gangster stuff, this is a great show.
Okay, very good. Good recommendation. Okay, so in the world of pop culture headlines. So making some news now is the M&M's characters. Now you remember the M&M's characters on the commercials, the Christmas commercial, and there's so many of them out there where it's like the giant animated M&M's, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might remember the one was like a green M&M. It's kind of like a sexy lady looking character with high heels and like a beauty mark and this and that and the other.
Just kind of hot.
So M&M's decided they're going to retool the M&M's to make them more, I don't know, modern, inclusive, all that stuff. So they kind of reintroduced them back in January of last year. And apparently it's just getting a lot of negative buzz in social media. And they've announced here recently that basically that those characters are on a permanent hiatus, and they're replacing them with Maya Rudolph as a spokesperson for M&M's candy. So we know Maya Rudolph from Saturday Night Live for many years.
Yeah, and let me guess, people are upset.
Oh, yeah. So now some people say this is all just another dumb advertising tactic for the Super Bowl where they're going to reintroduce the M&Ms or something at the Super Bowl. I don't know. But just the fact of people being upset about the change in look of an animated candy, it's really pretty fascinating. So it made a lot of news on Fox News, surprise, I guess, about the quote-unquote woke M&Ms. It's like this is on national news television. It's really fascinating what people will gravitate to for their, whether it be their political agenda and or just their personal interest.
Yeah.
So, Keith, what do you think about people being upset about the M&M's candy changes and firings, sir?
Well, we've seen this. We talked about it before, the stuff that people will complain about, and that's all because it's just so easy to complain. Back in the day, there were issues, serious issues going on, and you couldn't get anybody to take their time to write their congressman, their congresswoman. You couldn't get anybody to do something like that or start a petition. But now, because it's easy to piss and moan on the internet, everybody wants to complain about every little stupid thing. I got too much going on in my life to give a crap about M&M's advertisements. Yeah, I love the little guys in their commercials, but do what you do. Things can't stay the same, you know. Right. As long as M&M still tastes great, I'll be okay, which I don't need to be eating any. But I don't know, man. Just get a life.
Skinner, what do you think?
Hey, my sentiments exactly. These people who just want to complain for the sake of complaining. Well, what's M&M's changing their characters? What's that doing to affect your life? Nothing. You're going to still go to the damn store and feed these candies in your mouth.
Put them in your M&M chute.
Yeah. So, shut your pie holes and, find something else to complain about, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of people out there that as soon as they love to use the word woke. It's a woke society.
Buzzword.
It's woke this and woke that. They really just can't stand the fact if they could tie woke to something, the woke left or whatever the hell they want to say. It's really interesting. I don't know. I'm with you guys.
Here's one for you.
Go ahead.
I guess I'm not woke because I've never used that term till just now. So there you go.
There you go.
I'm woke to the fact that we got a bunch of idiots using woke now to make themselves sound smart. I finally woke up to that. You're a moron.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I'm with you. I could not care less about any of that. Just, it's I don't know if the characters make you buy more or less M&Ms to begin with.
Our government is hitting a debt ceiling, and people are worried about M&M's character.
That's right. That's right. And M&M's anyway, it's like, do they really need to advertise? It's like, I know what it is. I know what I'm getting with the M&Ms. It's melts in your mouth, not in your hand. I get it.
I was going to say they don't need to advertise. People know where they are. They're at the store, go get them. But sometimes you see a commercial like, you know what? I haven't had those in a while, but you'll go pick something up. So I get that part, but
I suppose. Well, okay. All right.
You know what, though, Fish? I guarantee you they could save so much money if they just showed a picture of an M&M for 5 seconds.
That's it.
Let it break open, see the chocolate inside, and that's it. You got to pay no actors or nothing, and people be like, "I haven't had M&Ms in a while," and they're gonna pick some up.
That's a great point. That's a great point. They do have a lot of interesting flavors these days, by the way, too. So, okay, so we mentioned Way of the Water recently, the Avatar sequel, and I saw that in the theater. It's really just killing it in the box office. So it has now topped $2 billion in the global box office. And it's the third James Cameron film to reach that benchmark. And the other two movies are the original Avatar, Titanic, James Cameron also, of course, this one, and then Avengers Endgame hit that mark, and also Star Wars The Force Awakens. Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War, actually, so the last couple Avengers movies hit $2 billion. So just pretty fascinating. I mean, James Cameron, I don't know if we'll see this maybe again. I don't know. It's just an amazing accomplishment to create movies with this level of accolades and box office is really quite something.
And you're talking about the 2 billion mark. Just look at the big ones he's had. Terminator. That's
yeah.
You know, there's other stuff he's done. It's just huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, not to mention just the characters and the universes that he's introduced in the world of pop culture and movie franchises. So just pretty amazing. So I don't know if any more thoughts on it. I just wanted to call that out. And Skinner, do you have any thoughts on this? Now, you mentioned there was an actress in one of these movies that happens to have been in several of these movies.
Yeah, Zoe Saldana. They had made mention she's a
the 2 billion mark. Just look at the big ones he's had. Terminator. That's it.
Yeah.
There's other stuff he's done. It's just huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, not to mention just the characters and the universes that he's introduced in the world of pop culture and movie franchises. So just pretty amazing. So I don't know if I need any more thoughts on it. I just wanted to call that out. And Skinner, do you have any thoughts on this? Now, you mentioned there was an actress in one of these movies that happens to have been in several of these movies.
Yeah, Zoe Saldana. They had made mention she's the first actress to be a part of multiple $2 billion episode or movies. She's been in both Avatars, and she was in one of the Avengers as one of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So she's first actress to be in the 2 billion mark multiple times. So shout out to her. But
incredible.
Yeah, for James Cameron to, I don't want to say he's pick and choose his projects, but if he has, the man's a freaking genius because he's done some incredible work over the years. And like Porter said, Terminator may not be a $2 billion franchise, but he made quite a bit of money on that franchise as well. So
I think relatively speaking, it's close. I mean, $2 billion now
over the
$2 billion
2 or 3
30 years ago. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we have a call into his office, effective episode 100 for us to
there you go.
begin producing the show. So we'll see. I've not received a return call yet. I'm sure he just hasn't gotten the message just yet. So
he's got some
hopeful.
time.
We're hopeful. We're hopeful.
Yes, we are.
Yep. And the actress that Skinner's talking about, he mentioned off camera that she had a nice set of eyes off camera.
Yeah, she did
as
mention
well.
her eyes were very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so another sign, I guess, getting older, that the music that becomes more popular, just for me anyway, it's just farther and farther away. But I just thought this was an interesting statistic here. Now we know Miley Cyrus, of course.
Unfortunately,
yes. But she just broke over the past couple of weeks here. Past 10 days actually. So she released a single, "Flowers." And on Spotify, they've announced that the song had broken the record for the most streams in a single week. So in 1 week, it hit on Spotify only 101,838,799 streams since coming out late in the day on January the 12th.
Wow.
So on Thursday, it reached 100 million point faster than any other song on Spotify. So I've not listened to the song yet. I'm sure it's a fine song. I like her direction where she's gone as far as more edgy and stuff like that. She's not a terrible singer. She's okay. I don't seek her out to listen to her. I just thought that was an amazing statistic, and just how the music industry is today. I mean, obviously, you think back to the old top 40 countdowns and all that. They had to measure record sales and radio plays and stuff like that. Now you just have it right on the streaming service. How many times someone listened to a song? It's very clean. It's one way you can measure it. So, and it's obviously very accessible for a lot more people to pull up a song and listen to it like that. So I don't know how it translates into money necessarily for her, otherwise that she probably makes so much per stream, I would imagine. And then, certainly it creates a lot of publicity around her music and albums and her as an artist in general. But 100 million listens of anything in a week, that's pretty extraordinary. So, Keith, any thoughts on Miley Cyrus or how they measure music anymore, the music business in general, how they're measuring things? Go ahead.
Interesting. I won't say too much about Miley Cyrus. I'm certainly not a fan. I actually find her disgusting. I don't get it, but hey, as far as her voice is concerned, I love her voice. I always thought, man, if she was in a metal band, she would just sound amazing. She's got that raspy but total clarity, and she hits her notes. So
she sung some hard rock songs.
Yeah, and she sounded great on them.
Mm-hmm,
I get that part of her. Just her, I can't stand. But more interesting what you were talking about, how artists make music. I'll never forget the day there was this huge push by artists to stop this thing called Napster.
That's right.
And I think Metallica led the
Lars,
way.
yes.
And it was just way to download songs into this new invention called MP3 player. And artists were losing their mind because you got two ways to make money. You go out and you tour for a while. The other way is you make records, and like you said, it's those album sales, they hit the charts. The more you sell, the better, and the artist only got a little cut of that anyway. Now, all of a sudden, people are getting that music for free. Well, why go buy their record? Look at where we are today. When boom, you can record whole albums, to your device or whatever. New album comes out, I just go Apple Music, add the library, and the whole album is on my phone now. It is just a whole different world, and artists are forced not only to tour more to make money, but to find other ways to get money to come in. And this is one of the ways, the streaming. They have to keep track of it so that they can get some sort of percentage for these downloads. So it's just a whole new era that we live in, and it's been really hard for a lot of artists who can't do some of the things they need to make money. That's why you see all these different avenues opening up, because man, when the touring stops, and it's really bad for the artist that does not have the copyright thing going on. If you don't have your name on the song, then you don't get that percentage. So that's a really big thing in bands. You want to do put your name on the song so that any reproduction of that song, you get 1/8 of a cent whenever it's reproduced. But if you didn't have anything to do with the writing of the song, you make some money touring and maybe a few other things, but that's about it, man. And that's why you see a lot of people going to court with other band members. It's like, hey, you didn't write the song. So, and when you're not selling out, when you're not the hot item anymore, you can't sell out Quicken Loans Arena or whatever it's called now. You can't sell out places like that, and your band's back to playing, Cleveland Agora or even smaller venues, then you really can't make any money. So that happens a lot. When bands are on tour, the drummer or whoever, they don't think about it. Hey, we're touring, I'm making money. When that's over with and nobody's booking you like that, the only person who's making money in that band is the person whose name is on the copyright for that song. So interesting.
Yeah. Skinner, any thoughts on it?
No, I didn't know. Information Keith just talked about it. It's all new to me.
It's been going on since the 50s, man, 40s. It's a really big deal right now.
Yeah.
The 50s artists, they got a big class action lawsuit still going right now from all the things they did with those songs. And man, the writers and the writers' families are raking in all this money. I just heard 2 commercials the other day with my uncle's song, Hold On, I'm Coming, being played on there. And he's fighting in court to get some of that money, So
crazy. Okay, let's get into some pop culture history here, guys. We're shooting this on Monday, January the 23rd. So looking at some, big pop culture stories this week over the years. Let me get these, by the way, thisweekinpopculturehistory.com. You can find all these and statistics and everything else. It's a pretty easy to use site, by the way, to give them proper credit. January the 22nd in 1984, the Apple Macintosh personal computer made its debut. You might remember this. I remember of all the great Super Bowl commercials, you might remember the commercial for the Macintosh. It was based on the 1984 book.
Yeah.
That whole big, futuristic.
Scene,
yeah, it was a really great commercial.
No
really
personality.
Was.
Everybody was the same. You're just an object. It's kind of scary.
Yeah. But the Apple was different and this and that and the other. So, still a very popular computer to this day. I've never owned one myself. Now I own Apple devices. I have an iPad here in my hand. An iPhone we're shooting as an iPhone. We talked about iPhones last week, by the way. So the iPhone was introduced last week in pop culture history. We talked about that in our last episode. So go check that out if you haven't listened or watched that. You can find that clip out there too on our channels and all that stuff. But it's very prevalent for younger people for sure. I know that. So, my daughter Peyton is a college student, and she takes graphic design at Kent State University here locally. She got her first Mac last year. All her classmates use them. It's a very user-friendly thing. It's very easy to use, graphics programs and everything else. So she absolutely loves it. Not cheap, but it's a fantastic laptop for her. So I don't know. I've never owned one. Guys, have you owned a Mac before? Do you have any comparisons, if so, between a Mac and a standard Windows laptop, or don't have really any thoughts on it? Skinner, anything on the Macintosh?
I've never owned one, but Mike Jr. swears by them. So if he was with us tonight recording, or he's listening as he's helping us out here, he'll tell you the same thing. He won't use anything else but a MacBook. So, but me personally, I don't have any experience with it. And I'm like you. I've got my iPad right here and my iPhone sitting here in front of me as well. But I've never used a computer, so I have no way to compare.
Okay, Keith, how about you?
Listen, all my life I've been PC. I've been Android on my phones and notebooks and all that type things. And now I find myself sitting here with an iPad, an iPhone, and all I could do is pop myself in the head and go, where you been all my life? I never thought I would want to use an iPhone or an iPad. People that I would look at and try to mess with, whatever. I just thought it was just confusing. Now I love it. I've never owned a Mac, but I have a feeling that if I ever did get one, I would probably do the same thing, pop myself in the head and go, where you been all my life?
Yeah.
It's a strong possibility that it might happen. Now, as far as the computer's concerned, I love PC. I never had any problems. It's simple. I just don't have a reason to get a Mac right now, unless I probably work on somebody's and find some things that'll make me say, hey, I want to get a Mac. That's what happened with iPhone. When the 11, I think, came out, and the new camera system, the video system, we started doing our show. When I saw that and played with it, I was convinced. And then everything else blew me away on it. So never had one, but I got a feeling that if I ever probably use one and use some kind of program that was beneficial to me, I could easily be talked into it.
Okay, very good. So today, January 23rd, in 1986. So I know Keith and I were juniors at high school. Skinner, was you a freshman then?
Later that year I was, yeah.
Okay. That was the induction of the first Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class in Cleveland, Ohio. The first inductees, some, certainly iconic artists: Little Richard, Chuck Berry, James Brown, Ray Charles, Sam Cooke, Fats Domino, Everly Brothers, Buddy Holly, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Elvis Presley. Sam Cooke, right? Keith, that's your uncle?
No, Sam Moore.
Sam Moore. I'm so sorry. I said it wrong. I'm sorry. So obviously over the years, there's been a lot of controversy. I don't know if it's controversy. Some may say controversy. A lot of discussion on what artists go into the quote-unquote Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is it rock and roll? Is rock and roll just more of a description of music in general? Heck, even this past year, we know we had Dolly Parton was nominated, and she originally said, well, I'm not a rock and roll singer. I declined, and then she came back and accepted the honor because it's more of a...
She should have.
Yeah, it's more of a music artist Hall of Fame. They almost could change the name, or you just sort of need to redefine your definition of what a rock and roll, what is rock and roll music. It's really encompassing of a lot of almost every type of music, almost really. So I don't know. So any thoughts in general of the types of artists over the years? Like, have you been upset about the type of artists that they've put in? Are you upset that they don't have enough representation of a certain type of music? Any thoughts, Keith, on the Rock Hall over the years?
Yeah, it's an old argument, Fish. I'm done with it, because it is what it is. Too late to do anything about it now. You've let so many people in who were not under the definition that we thought it was about rock and roll. So we understand it's a music thing now, and that's fine, no problem. And I just think there's this middle of the road area that gets looked over. Now, we've seen some of the big, older, heavy, I should say hard rock. No one will necessarily call them metal acts that have been in. We've seen Kiss and things like that. But there's this middle section that is overlooked that have so many albums. It's ridiculous. Iron Maiden, Scorpions. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about bands that have been around since the 70s, got so many albums. It's ridiculous. How many albums the Scorpions have? How many albums Maiden has put out? And, I just think they get overlooked. No respect. Even the Metal Awards show, the Loudwire shows and whatever. I mean, those are just like for newer artists, and sometimes they go to that heavy extreme. But the bands that we grew up liking, I mean, they're just looked over. Van Halen, they might be more mainstream, but you're talking about your Scorpions, Queensryche. I mean, just bands who have sold multiple platinum albums, man, that will never get the respect they deserve.
Yeah. Skinner, any thoughts?
I agree with Keith. My biggest beef with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the definition of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which they've started to define it as encompassing all genres of music, which is fine. But all these years, since '86, we were growing up and bitching and moaning because Iron Maiden and Scorpions and a lot of these bands that we grew up and loved, Metallica is another one, that why are these bands not in the Hall of Fame? They're the best out there. They're the ones that turn the music industry around, yet they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Well, that was my gripe, is the understanding of what the music Hall of Fame really was. So
now Metallica did get in eventually, finally.
Yes, finally. Way later than.
Yeah.
Who were some of the people that went in last year?
It was like
Duran was one of them.
Judas Priest got in. Judas Priest got in as a contributor, like a performer. So basically they got in as a sort of a different, but they're in.
Ridiculous. That's another band that's ridiculous. That didn't get in 20 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Here's some. Let's look at Carly Simon. No,
there's definitely some big
been
names.
Around a long time. There was some good names last year. Yeah. Benatar should have been in there.
Yeah.
Eurythmics, Lionel Richie. Those are good names. Okay. So I'm going to look up. Let's make this interesting. Let's go questionable. Rock Hall inductees.
Don't forget you can catch us on Bosco Media Network as Keith is looking this up.
All right.
Spotify, Apple.
Okay, so there's some really great names on here. Some of the questionable names have been wow, I actually like all these people on here. Can you guys think of anybody that's been questionable put into the Rock Hall?
It's hard to think about some of that. One thing that gets me is like there's some bands that were newer.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look up.
you're not eligible, I think, until like your first record was 25 years or older. I think that's when you're eligible and all that stuff. But it's just there's artists out there that have just a more complete body of work and been doing it for so long, and how some newer bands pass them by. It's just difficult. It's all just
you know how many album
bias.
sales that Iron Maiden has? 130 million.
Wow. They were nominated, I think, 2 years ago, and did not get out. Judas Priest came back around. It was like their second nomination to finally get them in. I think Iron Maiden will definitely get in. You have to. But again, that's a band. It's just taking way too long for them to get in. And I agree with the Scorpions as well. I mean, Scorpions, a couple of the average person knows a couple of songs with them, but they have such a extensive, deep catalog.
It's ridiculous.
And one of the best live acts I ever saw.
I totally agree with you. I just said to somebody yesterday, one of the best live acts I've ever seen.
Absolutely. It's insane. Yeah, I like Def Leppard and all that. They're fine, but they're not more deserved than some of these other bands. So it's tough. When you have people's opinions, it's just a bunch of people talking and making a decision like that. All these Hall of Fames. It's difficult.
Yeah. And you want to put in perspective. You take my favorite band from back then, Queensryche. Here's a band that had a couple of platinum albums, maybe 4 of the biggest albums in metal back then. Okay, they've been around a long time. They haven't been a household name recently, but this is a great band from a great era. 20 million album sales.
Yeah,
that doesn't even come close to somebody like Maiden.
Yep, never get in. Well, I don't know. Hopefully, they continue to, broaden their horizons and welcome more bands like that in there that we've enjoyed, that we certainly believe are deserving to get in there. So we'll see.
I want to add this too, Fish, and I know somebody here just might not like it, but this is the truth. If we see bands that we love get the credit they deserve, it's going to have to be done by people that aren't into bands like we love and deserve, because it ain't going to get done right.
Yep, that's right.
You know what I mean? I look at that Loudwire Awards show, and it's a fiasco. It's ridiculous. I mean, we freaked out when we see some of this stuff that go on at the Grammys and stuff, whatever. But if you look at shows like the Source Awards, it's like out of control. You hear stories that go on with Suge Knight and East Coast, West Coast shooting it out in the parking lot and all that other stuff. But you don't hear about that stuff at the Grammys or the Country Music Awards or things like that. But I look at that heavy metal awards show, and these people act like they've never worn shoes before. I mean, seriously, just because it's heavy metal, don't act like freaking hoodlums, like it's your first time using a fork or something, man. I mean, they're just screaming, fighting, feet up on the seats, everybody coming out, F-bombs, drunk and high. I mean, come on, let's have a day where we show a little bit of class, so I don't know.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know. All good comments, man. Let's move on to 1977. Also, this day, this is the 23rd, 1977. The Roots miniseries aired for the first time on ABC. It was based on the novel Roots by Alex Haley. It continues to hold the record for the third highest rated U.S. television program at 36.38 million. It received 37 Emmy Award nominations. It won 9. It won a Golden Globe and a Peabody Award, and a remake of, it began airing in 2016 on the History Channel. I did not know that, which was also a ratings and critical success. So, never saw it. Again, not something I was, nope, never something I was against. I mean, at the time, 77, I was a kid. I'm like, I just was not going to hold my attention to anything that serious probably as a kid, but never came back around and watched it. I'm sure it's just, obviously with just hearing the accolades here, it's definitely worth watching, probably for several reasons. But yeah, never saw it. Thoughts on Roots, Keith? Obviously you've seen it, yes?
Yeah, we did the whole show. It's probably one of the greatest things that's ever been made that's not talked about enough. I think maybe because there's been so many similar things afterwards. As a young black child when Roots came out, what year was that?
77.
77. So I was 9 years old. We were made to watch it. My family members, kids in the neighborhood, there was no choice in the matter. And when it was over with, everybody had this same look. Now we get it. See, we were young, and we heard things, and we understood that there was a problem in this world. Because of our skin color, we all had experiences. We all got treated differently. I remember getting followed in stores and all this other stuff, but I didn't understand why and where this all came from until I saw Roots. And I'll never, ever forget how crazy it was the day after when it reran. I remember how all the black kids were angry and all the white kids were scared to death because we didn't know. The white kids didn't know, and the black kids didn't know. And the black kids were like mad, like this really happened to us, And the white kids are like, "Wow, that's pretty lame." I'm scared. Most of them anyway. So it was really life changing for us in our neighborhood. There were a lot of jokes and stuff that came out of it too, but for the most part, it was horrifying. It scared me to death. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever saw to this day, but it changed everything after that because so many people didn't know. And even in my music class, we teach about the civil rights movement in the 60s. And it wasn't until television, film, the police turning dogs and hoses on the protesters down in Atlanta, the country didn't know. White people didn't know this was going on, There was a whole cross-section of America, of white Americans that got ticked off, but they didn't know. They heard things, but until they saw it, it was like, wow, we didn't know this was going on. So Roots kind of did the same thing as far as, slavery and all that. We didn't know. We heard stories in school. We read stories, but nobody knew. And Alex Haley just opened that window up and opened everybody's eyes up. His story was amazing because he went back and studied his entire family history. This is his family history. This isn't a made up. This isn't fiction. So it was just incredible. I'll never forget the day after watching Roots, how everybody was different.
Very good. Skinner, you ever see it?
Nope. I'm like you, never saw it. So I have nothing to add, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. Well, Sicky. So yeah, sounds like if we haven't seen it out there, go watch it. Maybe get a different perspective on many things.
I guarantee it'll change you. Watch it.
Okay. January 24th, you guys back in 1993. Disney made a wise purchase and picked up the Pixar movie studio. So they had agreed to a 3-movie agreement with Pixar before they bought them. Toy Story, A Bug's Life, and Toy Story 2. The 3 had won 19 Oscars and grossed more than $3 billion at the box office. And Disney was like, hey, let's keep this partnership going. They agreed to another 3 movies. But Steve Jobs, who was a CEO for Pixar, did not get along with Michael Eisner, who was a CEO for Disney. Jobs announced that Pixar would begin looking for another distributor, and the 6th film would be the last with Disney. Eisner stepped down, and then Robert A. Iger stepped in at Disney and made amends with Pixar, and they agreed to buy Pixar in 2006. So, I'm sorry, 93. Sorry. No. On this day in 2006, Disney purchased Pixar. 1993. Why is it Disney purchased this? It's kind of weirded wrong here. So Disney went to a first partnership with Pixar in 93, and they purchased them in 2006. So that's what it was. Anyway, certainly since that time, Pixar has put out some incredible movies, really from its inception. So just amazing animation very good storylines, just some incredible movies, and they do some very creative things with tying, movies together and Easter eggs and everything else. I don't know, but just some very, very good movies out there. So I'm curious, just in general, guys, if you have, I don't know, give me like your top 3, 4 favorite Pixar movies in any particular order that you want to mention. Skinner, why don't we start with you? So what are your top couple Pixar movies over time, sir?
I can give you top 3 because those are volumes ahead of the rest of them. Toy Story 1,
yeah,
Incredibles, and Monsters, Inc.
Okay.
My kids, I took my children to see Monsters University, which is the second one, to the drive-in theater in Ravenna when they were younger. The older kids, we all went as a family and just had an absolute ball. The Reds were just very little, but that was their time that they were big into the Pixar movies. So I have good memories with the Incredibles and Monsters, Inc. with them.
Very good. Keith, do you have any favorite Pixar movies? You may not have seen as many.
I can give them to you in order. There's 3 of them because they're the only 3 I've ever seen. First one is The Incredibles. Second one was Toy Story 1, and then Incredibles 2. I tried to watch Lightyear. There's elements of that movie that just disgusted me. I stopped watching it. But I've never really seen any of the Pixar movies, not all the way through anyway. So that's something that has an interest to me. I'm sure there's a few in there that I would probably dig. I have some little nephews and nieces that watch some of this stuff, and I catch a little bit, but really don't know anything about them.
Okay. I mean, certainly the catalogs out there on Disney Plus you could check out as well. So I'll give you my 4 here. Up is way up there, just an incredible movie, and it's up there for the first few minutes of the movie. Up, so some of the saddest movie scenes ever.
Really?
It's just a very brief story of a man showing a love story with his wife, and it shows just a passage of time, and they're deeply in love, and he loses her, and he's on his own. So it becomes this kind of bitter old man. That's kind of the premise of the beginning of the movie. But
I love the animation on that movie.
Just fascinating, amazing. So yeah, definitely check out Up. If it's definitely one to add to your list if you're considering watching some Pixar movies. I also have the first Toy Story, just incredible. Just the whole premise is fantastic. With obviously we know the story of how toys come to life, and it's about kids growing up, and it's a whole thing there. Just all the characters and the voice actors. I mean, obviously Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, just hugely talented voices throughout the entire series, and they made I think 4 of them. And all those movies are very good in their own right, in my opinion. Monsters Inc. is fantastic. Just the premise is terrific. Again, John Goodman and Billy Crystal, just fantastic. And that's a movie that Peyton was, she watched when she was little, introduced her to that. So I have a lot of fond memories with Monsters. I also took her to go see Monsters Inc. at the drive-ins. And one of the best movies, maybe arguably the best all around. Fantastic. I hadn't watched this movie in a long time, and we went on vacation, a little getaway 2 summers ago with Peyton and Joey and Marlo and Allie and everybody. And we had a little family night, and they picked the movie. I hadn't seen it in years, Ratatouille. I had forgotten how good that movie is, about the rat who's the chef that befriends a young up-and-coming chef and literally teaches him how to cook. And it's just a very sweet story, and worth watching. And then some honorable mentions. WALL-E, this was the robot, one in the future where the Earth has been overrun by trash, and the Incredibles 1, you guys mentioned that as well. And a newer one that came out within the last couple of years, you can find Luca. So Luca is about basically sea monsters living among humans. So you definitely have some undertones of racism and different things are kind of in, you get in the movie, but very, very well done. Go check that out as well.
Yeah, I'm sure I watched a lot more of these. I would love a lot of them, not all of them. Just haven't had, I don't know. Just haven't.
Hey, if you just want to feel
on some of them.
absolutely just a feel good type movie, go check out some of these. If make the next one either Up or Ratatouille. Trust me, and then you'll. All right, so in 1966, very popular toy we had growing up here received a patent, the spirograph. Now, you might remember this thing here. It had I think it had different sets, but it had like a plastic thing you might remember, and it had different shapes and different things. So you would put a colored pen or pencil or something in the thing and move it around, and it would automatically draw perfectly, perfect symmetry shapes on a piece of paper. You can do different things and make different designs. You can make all kinds of incredible designs with this thing. I used to have one and play with it for hours. I had tons of spirograph drawings as a child growing up here. We'll hold the thought on spirograph until we get to the other one here, because it might make your list of some favorite toys. In 1958, on January the 28th, Lego patented its famous iconic brick design. So the Lego Group, which means play well, which I did not know, it began as a wooden toy company in 1932. The Denmark company pivoted in 1947 to plastic toys, creating their first versions of their signature automatic binding bricks. Obviously, they patented it, and it just never looked back. Obviously, Lego to this day is just a phenomenon in itself with all the intricate sets that are out there. They've had movies, video games. There's a game show for Lego Masters out there right now. So there's a Lego Museum, which I want to check out. I've never been. I want to go check that out. So thinking of the spirograph and Legos, definitely toys that I had growing up as a child, as did most kids probably from our generation. This made me think about some of our favorite toys in general growing up. So if you want to mention the spirograph or Lego too, that's certainly okay. If it did not make your immediate list, but I'm interested in some of your favorite types of toys as a kid. Now, this could be a particular toy, I don't care, or it could be something like Lego in general, which obviously had different play sets and stuff like that. So some of your most favorite things growing up. So Keith, any come to mind?
Oh gosh, yeah, so many. This toy, it's funny when you think about the things kids have now, but we didn't have this stuff they have now. So this was the closest thing to being taken away somewhere. If you got any kind of computer now, you can visit any country on the planet. You can go to outer space on that computer, if you will. But back in the day, to just see other things, there was nothing cooler to me than a
Viewmaster.
Yeah. Man, I could just stare in there for days, and if you hold it up to the light, whatever picture you were looking at was lit up, and it was just fascinating to me. I just loved it. I would just look at the same stuff for forever. Also, I think one of the most important toys for all of us, and it's really weird, but it kind of changed everything because it allowed you to do things indoors that you did outdoors. Nerf, just Nerf everything. And Nerf used to be just simple ball. Then it just blew up to Nerf everything. And now you can get Nerf machine guns, and I mean, you go to war with Nerf now.
Very good.
So that was one of my good ones. And I also really, really, really loved Hot Wheels. And my thing with the Hot Wheels was and I got this from a friend, it got me in trouble, but he would go in his sister's room and steal her fingernail polish remover. And he taught me how to take the paint off of them and repaint them with fingernail polish. And that was really great when I learned that. So we were designing our own Hot Wheels. And it's one of the last one. I had a great imagination as a child, but I think I got more fun out of a light bright than anybody. Metal wash tubs, guys. So I would get a big metal wash tub, and then I would couldn't wait for a box to come to the house, because I'd take the box, give me a big piece of cardboard, and I would spend hours on this box in a black marker, drawing in controls and buttons, lasers, thrust, and all this other stuff. and all these controls and screen readouts that I drew on here, I'd punch holes in them, right? And then I took that light bright and I took that black screen off and threw that away, and I put the light bright down in the wash tub, and then I laid my control panel on top of it and turned the lights out, and I'd be in my bedroom for hours until like I'm controlling my own spaceship. It was great times.
Interesting. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
Actually, I did that yesterday, but whatever.
That's all right. Hey. That's great. Kind of forgot about the light bright. Love that. Mm-hmm. I definitely had one. Peyton had one as a kid too. Matter of fact.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Skinner.
So I went a different route. I did toy brands, but that's okay because you can do the toys with it. I had Nerf as my number one.
Oh.
As a kid, I was into sports more than I was. Next to Star Wars, I was into sports. So when Nerf came out, man, I don't have to go outside to throw a ball. I can do this indoors, like you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Number 2 on my list is Kenner, which you all know and we've talked about. That's who put Star Wars on the map and the kids. And I absolutely adored every figure, everything I had with Star Wars growing up. And then I've also got on here Mattel. Again, with sports, Mattel, not only do they have all the board games, but the Tekken football, which Fisher's got right behind them.
Yep.
I didn't go
too right there. Yes, indeed.
I didn't go anywhere without that thing with the extra set of batteries because if I had lost the batteries, I was pissed. If that thing ran out. And then last one is Milton Bradley. They had some of the coolest games growing up, which Fisher has behind him a picture. Simon Says.
Yep.
And the board game Perfection was one of my favorites as well.
Yeah.
This go on for hours on the stuff we have, but those are the ones that hit home with me.
Lost Art, the board game, just great fun, great way to connect with friends. Which I spoke to Coach Cooper the other night. We're going to have another board game night coming up here.
I love that. I miss that.
I'll say, just don't bring out attic antics.
Yeah, don't bring that out. But we got something bigger planned. We'll talk to you guys about.
All right.
Oh Lord, you put Coach Cooper in there and bigger plans. I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'll talk to you after the show.
All right. Okay, so some of my favorites as a kid, now as a young child, Fisher Price, all the play sets and the at the time it was the wooden figures. I had like they had so many play sets back then, man. I had like the farm. I had the parking garage with a little plastic car. You crank up the elevator and would roll down the ramp. I had the village, so it had like a town that would open up, and you had a traffic light. You had the jail and the barber shop. Man, like the boats, the airplane, the airport. They had so many play sets out there. I had just a ton of those. Bless my parents' heart. I used to play with those things for hours and hours and hours and hours. It was a safe toy, and really just my imagination would just run ramp. Now, of course, I was an only child, so it was me at home a lot, just learning to entertain myself. So it was, these toys probably took to a whole other level for me, just the, what I was able to do, and I didn't have to share with anybody. So there you have it. Toys for me went to another level. My dad got me a Tyco electric train set when I was a young kid as well, and then for a while, for Christmases, I would get like little add-on things. So like so for a while there, I had a whole train set up in the basement of my parents' house. My dad hand-built a table for me. God bless him. We had the tracks all set up and stuff. So I would have like you pull up to a thing and you run the train engine backwards, and a guy would would load the train and stuff, and then all these little cool things I was building up. I had a lot of fun with that for many, many years. Kenner, also Skinner, the whole Star Wars stuff. That was a whole other world, all the action figures and the ships. I mean, geez, when those came out, that was, again, that replace probably the amount of time with Fisher Price with Star Wars action figures and those toys, just playing with all the play sets and everything and the figures was just phenomenal. And then, I don't care if it's considered a toy or not, whatever, but the pinnacle in my youth was the Atari 2600. When that thing came out, my parents got that for me. That was the most exciting Christmas gift, one of the most exciting Christmas gifts I ever got in my entire life. Man, just playing those games and all that is just hours and hours.
So many kids in my house. My mom's like, "Get these kids out of my house."
Yeah, absolutely.
We pile on each other's house and play. Yeah.
Honorable mentions, I'll just say Legos was up there and Hot Wheels for me too, Keith. I had, of course, the tracks and the sets and everything else here. And I'll add, while he's here, one of the greatest individual toys of all time.
Oh, yes.
This was an original. I'm going to show it on camera here. This was the Evel Knievel Ideal brand Jump Cycle. This is a figure from one of the original toys back in the 70s here. Now, they've remade these now. You can buy a new one right now online. They've reissued them. That toy is one of the greatest toys ever. It never failed to work properly.
You were cool. Yes. You had that. Now, Fish, you guys mentioned the Star Wars ships. I never had a Star Wars ship. I didn't see Star Wars till a while after it came out, years after it came out. I never had a Star Wars ship, but speaking of some of my favorite toys, now I did have a huge Darth Vader. And I love that. I had him fight my big Incredible Hulk that I had. But you know what ship I have that was just the greatest toy ever mentioned? You guys remember a show called Space 1999?
Oh, yeah.
Channel
the big
40,
white ship.
The Eagle ship. Yeah, and you could take the front of it off and make the small Eagle. I had that whole big ship and the size opened up. Man, I love that thing.
Good
I'd
memories.
love to see one of those again, yeah. And gosh, we want to go back to our real childhood when we were little. Who didn't have a see and say?
Yeah, that's
that
right.
Was fun.
Good
one of my
stuff
favorite scenes of King of Queens is when Doug was laid off and Deacon was laid off, and the old man was there, and Deacon had his little baby, and he kept pulling the CNC to entertain him, and he had the animals on it. Froggy goes quack, and they were just getting annoyed with it, and they just start betting on him. I got $5 on the Froggy. Just gambling. I said, I could see me and my stupid friends doing that, man. Turning the CNC into Vegas.
Yep. I had one of those too. Great stuff. All right. A lot of good memories here, guys. If you're listening, watching still, and if you have any toys that some of your favorites that we mentioned or didn't mention, we'd love to hear from you. So you can email us at camefromgenx330 @gmail.com, or post on our Facebook page or Twitter or Instagram, or just reach out to us, and we'd love to hear from you. And while we're at it, if there's any particular topic you want to hear or have us reminisce about, let us know. Love to hear from you. So, Keith, any announcements before we wrap it up here, sir?
Nothing. Got a big show coming in February. I'll talk about that later on. I'm excited to announce, if I didn't say last week, I've been recast as Lamont in the play production of Sanford and Son coming up this June. So I'm excited about reprising that role. It was one of the best plays. It was the best play I've ever been in. One of the best casts. It was sold out every night. So I'm really excited about that. Very
good. Yeah, again, for me, listen to me also on the Convincing Idiots podcast with Dean and Nick, Pop Culture Fun, also on podcast platforms, Boss Code Media, and YouTube at Convincing Idiots. Skinner, any announcements? And then take us out, sir, please.
Big weekend coming up for me here. Personally, can't announce it just yet, but next week certainly will. Stay tuned, folks. But no, great show, great reminiscing. Yeah, there you go. But great topics this week. Like Fish said, if you want to talk about anything, get a hold of us and let us know what your favorite toy was. So for Brian Fisher and Keith Porter, I am Michael Skinner. We're the guys from GenX. We appreciate you. And as always, have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
Reach out to Skinner if you want to camp in his camper.
Yes. He will rent it out for $20 a night.
Hey, Fish here from It Came From Gen X with Skinner and Keith. For every like and subscribe, you may win a free 1-year subscription to the AARP.